Russian and Ukrainian officials are meeting today for a fourth round of talks. That's according to a senior advisor to Ukraine's president. And it comes a day after Russian missiles hit a Ukrainian military base less than 15 miles from the border with Poland, Poland being a member of NATO. And that attack killed at least 35 people. Here to talk about the developing situation in Ukraine is retired Lieutenant General H.R. McMaster. He was the National Security Adviser to former President Trump and the author of Battlegrounds, the fight to defend the free world. And he's got a new resume item to add to his list. Pleased to announce he is joining CBS News as a foreign policy and national security contributor. General, good morning.
Hey, good morning. Great to be with you.
And welcome.
Yeah, and welcome. Yeah. We're very glad to have you.
Yes, we are.
No one better to sort through the complexities of what's going on in Ukraine right now. Among those complexities is this assault on a military installation in the west of the country, 10 or 15 miles from the border of Poland. As everybody knows and fears, anything over that border would trigger an Article 5 counterattack potentially from America and its allies. How concerned should we be at this point that this battle is encroaching on what could be World War III territory?
Well, I think we should be concerned, but, I don't think the World War III rhetoric is super helpful, right? Because it kind of plays into Putin's hands. And what he's trying to do is to threaten an escalation of the war so that we will throttle back on our support for Ukraine. So I think it's important for us to recognize that Russia is going to do everything it can to try to interdict the resupply for the Ukrainians. And this is humanitarian assistance and also replenishing some of their military capabilities. It's going to be more and more contested, I think, in the far west by these kind of long-range capabilities. But I think what you're seeing is that Russia is really getting desperate, right, with not only this action to try to interdict the supply routes, but also, with this kind of trying to lay the groundwork for maybe the use of chemical weapons, which is concerning. But then also, Putin rattling his nuclear saber. So this is, I think, a real sign of weakness. I mean, I think Russia and Putin in particular is in real trouble.
I hope you're right about that. Talking about Russia being desperate, there are reports that Russia is getting ready to ask China for military help and economic aid. Can you see any scenario that Russia does that? And if they do, what should the U.S. response be?
Well, Gayle, they already have tremendous support from China. Remember, right before the Olympics, they both called each other their BFFs. Really, that there are no limits to their partnership. Yes. Exactly. And what China's been doing is providing cover for Russia's mass murder of innocent civilians, spouting the same narrative that this isn't really a war, calling it a special military operation, also supporting these kind of false claims of military biolabs in Ukraine. So China, I think this ought to be hung around China's neck, this horrible assault on Ukraine. And I think it's a tremendous moment, Gayle, for the free world, I think, to shift the balance back in favor of the free world and away from these two authoritarian dictatorships.
General, it's Vlad. You say it's time that the U.S. consider a no-fly zone and boots on the ground in Ukraine. Those are actions that President Biden says are off the table. Why do you think they should be on the table now? And explain what would happen if the United States and Russia come into direct contact with each other and how things might escalate.
Well, Vlad, I just don't think it's good practice to take things off the table. Why don't we just stop doing that, right? Stop talking about what we're not going to do. Create some dilemmas, for Putin. I think for too long, we made it too easy for him. We vacated the Black Sea. We withdrew everybody from Ukraine. We said all the things we're not going to do. And, in retrospect, it seems kind of almost that we, in some ways, green-lighted the invasion with some of these actions. Now, I think the administration has done a very good job in galvanizing, the free world against this Russian aggression. So now it's time to take advantage of it. And I think it's time just stop talking about what we're not going to do.
General, I want to pick up on the China question one last time. While the administration has galvanized the free world, there's also some coordination with the non-free world. If China does give military hardware, lethal hardware to Russia to further the war in Ukraine, what should the U.S. do in response, if anything?
Well, we need to extend, I think, the economic sanctions to China. And we need to accelerate that anyway, right? Because this is a country that is committing slow genocide of the Uyghur population. This is a country where the Chinese companies have to literally act as an arm of the Chinese party as it continues to extend and tighten its exclusive grip on power, to extinguish human freedom in China, and to continue to be aggressive in the South China Sea and against Taiwan and on the Himalayan frontier with India. So I think step A is, hey, why don't we just stop underwriting our own demise with China? Why don't we restrict, some of the financial flows that go into China that are the scaffolding that hold up their statist, mercantilist economic model, one that they weaponize against us? So I think there are a lot of things we can do to shore up supply chains. And, hey, how about it like a sensible energy policy as well that recognizes the tremendous potential that the United States has to not only satisfy our needs, but also to break some of the dependence that Russia has, and to demonstrate to China that, hey, China cannot pursue its interests in this partnership with Russia. But I'll tell you, there's a lot we can do in terms of sensible long-term policies, and I think this ought to be a wake-up call, right? It was Germany's and Europe's dependence on Russian oil and gas that at the beginning muted our response. Hey, let's start managing these economic dependencies on China, and hey, also recognize it's China that wants to decouple on its own terms. This is Xi Jinping's idea of this dual circulation economy.
Exactly right. General McMaster, that is exactly the kind of analysis that we're proud to have at CBS News. We are so lucky that you're joining our family. Thank you very much.
Hey, a privilege to be with you guys. Thank you.